Let's try this one. That's what this one sounds like. Can't be satisfied.
Wyvern Blazewood here, aka Why Not, with Streetwear Live to interview Komuso Tokugawa, one of my recent discoveries here in Second Life. Welcome, Komuso.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. It's so good to see you again.
Do you?
I wondered how long you've been creating and playing music in Second Life.
Quite a while. I was one of the first live musicians in Second Life. I wasn't the first. I think that honor goes to, correct me if I'm wrong, it might be Frog Marlow and J-Cat Nico, way back in about 2005. But I was one of the first 4 or 5, I think. I discovered SL a few years before that, but I couldn't actually sign up in Australia because at the time it was in early alpha or beta and they restricted it to US people. And eventually I got to sign up.
Wait a minute. I thought it started in that year. It started before 2005?
They were in a alpha or a beta period for a year or 2, I think.
Oh my goodness.
And it was restricted to US locale because they also didn't have a global presence. So I had my eye on it, and then I was in for a little while, about 6 months or so, doing some other stuff for a year, and then I started, met some other people, and we started doing some live music again. That's pretty much how the whole live music scene started with small groups of us.
Wow, so you were in the forefront with that.
Yeah, with a bunch of other people.
How did you discover Second Life? Was it on a magazine, TV, newspaper? How did you find out about it?
I've been involved in game development and virtual worlds, and I was actually doing tracking virtual worlds technology and game technology, so it came up on my radar quite early as another virtual world. There were a few of these around, and I kept my eye on it and jumped in when I could.
Huh. Well, what was your purpose coming to Second Life? Basically, was it to expand your musical venues and the people you could reach, or did you come here and then you saw the possibilities of sharing your talent?
Interesting. Well, I didn't start using Second Life for live music, but I was in Australia when I first started using it, and then I came back to Japan. I moved back to Tokyo. My wife's Japanese. And I started a real-life band here in Tokyo when I came back in late 2005. And just a little trio with some Japanese friends, bass player and a drummer, and started doing a few gigs. And I'd always been a sideman harmonica player and slide player, so this was a little bit different. So I actually started to look at Second Life as a way to rehearse for my real-life gigs. And I ended up dropping the real-life gigs and just doing Second Life full time.
Really?
At that point, because it was early days, and the live music scene now is very, very different to what it was back then. The peak period for SL was about 2006 to 2009, live music. Pre-karaoke era, as we like to say. And I basically stopped doing the live gigs and or real life gigs and concentrated on the live virtual gigs for a few reasons.
Well, I've got to ask you where you got this avatar, where you got the idea to have an avatar like that, and if this avatar is symbolic of anything.
The whole idea of it basically came about just playing with the sliders and trying to come up with a unique look, because I thought a lot of other people, apart from being musically differentiating myself, I wanted to visually differentiate myself, because a lot of other people are trying to do copies of their real self, and I couldn't really see the point in that, because it's have some fun. And I had this idea. I had this idea in my mind of a cyborg, because mediated communication, we're a virtual extension of our real life self, and the cyborg concept is a little bit in there, and the whole look, the top hat and the stuff like that comes a little bit from the old blues guys who used to dress sharp. If you Muddy Waters and those guys, they always used to dress up to the nines. So there's a little bit of real life influence there, a little bit of cyberpunk influence, and the actual bass body character came about just playing with the sliders basically until I found something a little bit wacky enough. And then I just started
you're
adding.
definitely memorable, not only your music, but your look, both. I mean, it's
Thank you.
a cool look. What are some of the other social media that you use to communicate with or connect with your following here in Second Life?
That's always been a. Sorry?
I'm sorry,
Yes.
like Facebook or how else do you communicate with your following?
Yeah, Facebook. I have a large community there, but it's not just for my music. I'm also a music educational software developer. One of my other hats I wear. I have the benchmark harmonica education program called Harp Ninja out on the market. I do a little bit of Twitter. Apart from that, website, music.sonicviz.com is my main website, and then Facebook and Twitter, I guess. I don't really use too many of the other ones.
Well, I only recently had the pleasure of hearing you do a set when Nick Mammoth TP'd me to the venue where you were playing. Which artists, if any, have had an influence on your love of music and your choice of your style in music?
Oh, interesting question. Very, very deep one. I have a very eclectic sense. I've lived and worked and traveled all over the world. Even though I'm now in Japan, I spent many years in Europe, and I'm Australian originally. I started off trying, like a lot of blues players, trying to emulate the old blues guys, but I actually have an affinity for what I call world blues or roots music across many cultures. So my style is very much blues based in terms of emotion, but I mix in other genres that appeal to me, such as gypsy, fado, even electronica. It's all about rhythm and tone, essentially, is what music comes down to in communication.
So no specific people, more different styles. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but there's just too many good people to mention. Like, as I mentioned before, everywhere from slide guitar players, Muddy Waters, to George Thorogood, harmonica players, Little Walter, to Carlos Del Junco, even sax players, piano players. There's so many cross-cultural musical influence, great musicians out there that it's just impossible to list. I really couldn't list.
Oh, yeah. Well, what other people influenced your love of music? Was your family musically inclined or friends of yours that you hung with or whatever?
Yeah, I actually, my parents played a lot of music when I grew up, so there was always, I guess that's what sparked my initial interest in music is hearing a lot. And that's, if you talk to a lot of musicians, that's where they basically got their first drive for music. Either they're embedded in a culture like in Cuba or something where music is part of the social fabric, or they were introduced to it through their family, either records being played and an introduction to that. So yeah, browsing through records. And then, meeting friends.
So your parents didn't actually play instruments, they played a lot of records.
Yeah, they weren't musicians per se, but they were music lovers, which is just as important, because without music lovers, it's much, isn't it?
Well, can you tell our audience a little bit about your music, particularly like your original songs, style and stuff?
Yeah, as I briefly mentioned, it's blues based in terms of emotional core is what I'm going for, and that's the blues is, a lot of people think it's just a 12-bar form, but actually it's a lot more complex than that. And I really love a particular style called Mississippi Hill Country Trance Blues, as played by people like Junior Kimbrough and R.L. Burnside, people like that. And it has a lot of similarities to electronic dance music, and in terms of what's called ostinato, which is a repeating rhythmic figure, and then you jam over the top. And that style actually goes back to the 20s and the 30s, and even before that, it's a very old musical style. If you think of boogie woogie piano, Fats Domino, and people like that, used to play in the brothels in the 20s and the 30s. Electronic music is very much like that as well. It's a cycle of repeating embellished on top. And the core of mine is groove, I guess. When I write my own songs, I try and find a good groove and then jam on top of that. So it's a little bit like a one-man jam band if I'm playing in Second Life with my artificial intelligent robot buddies.
Yeah, that's too cool. That is too cool. Your music career takes up a lot of your Second Life time, and you've already said you stopped doing live shows in your real life, right? You're just doing it now in Second Life. You don't travel or do any real life shows. Is that right?
It's very difficult nowadays for any musician, even name ones. I'm just an independent music hacker myself with really just a small following, and I do what I can. But I do get out occasionally. I did some a while back. It's really hard to find gigs here in Tokyo, which is one reason. There's a lot of places to play, but the music system here is very much pay to play, and I don't really believe in that system. But I am doing a gig tomorrow night, as it happens, with some old buddies. I'm just playing harmonica as a sideman, but it's with an old group of people. I had a band back here 20 years ago in Tokyo. So that'll be fun. You'll probably watch it live on the web, actually, as well.
Cool. Well, can you share one of your most memorable Second Life moments from your early days here? It could be something funny, fun, scary, or a proud moment. Anything that stands out in your mind from your first days here?
We had a lot of good times in the peak period. We used to break the Sims a lot, not just me, but other musicians. We used to crowd them to capacity. But some of the most interesting stuff we did was we were jamming live with people from other countries using some networking software so that we could I have a couple of videos like that on the web, like we did jams with Hatted Rickenbacker on piano in Canada and Noma Falter playing bass in Atlanta and Georgia.
Can you share those links with Abby Rose?
Yeah, for sure.
A note card so she can put that on the video?
Yeah. There's a playlist video on YouTube on that, and also Mo Shang Zhao in Taiwan, and there's a couple of videos demonstrating all those, and we had a lot of fun doing those actually, and we actually did some ticketed event tests, selling tickets, and they went well, but the technology really wasn't robust enough to do it as a full-time thing, because when you're selling tickets, there's an expectation that people get a quality experience that you can maintain, and SL was a bit jumpy in that regard. So it was good to experiment, but it wasn't something you could.
What do you mean was? I don't want to be sarcastic or funny.
I wasn't going to say that, but it's still a bit flaky, isn't it?
Well,
not as
before
robust.
you leave tonight, you got to make a note card with some of those links for Abby to put on the video.
No problem.
I'm not letting you leave. Okay, get some more coffee. All right, other than your music events, what other activities do you enjoy on Second Life? Or do you even have time for anything else because you're playing so much?
I'm actually not that much at the moment. As I mentioned, the live scene isn't as powerful as it used to be, and it changed a lot. Actually, quite a few years ago. I do the odd regular gig. I do a weekly regular gig here and some ad hoc gigs.
Is it always in the same place?
Yeah, Dr. John's Music Park is my regular one. I've been doing that for, 3
Yeah, you put that in the
now.
note card, too. We want to put all that information so people can come to see you because you are fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm available for hire anytime. You just got to drop me a
Yeah, I
note
probably
card
don't have
on
enough money.
we don't cost that much.
Abby, maybe we'll get them for the Hollywood Squares one time. All right, so would you share with the audience information about your group and how they can find where and when your events will be performed? I guess part of that will be on that note card, right?
Yeah, I just put that in the chat there. Actually, my website is music.sonicviz.com. That's my musical home on the web, I guess.
All right, but you want to put that in the note card too, so we can put it in text for the viewers of the video.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'll do that before I log out. And yeah, they're listed on there. My group SL is Komuso's Bands of the Blues. That's open. You can just join that. I always post in there just before doing the gig.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Now, Nick Mammoth found a video of yours. It's called Episode 1 Poor Boy Video, which we both watched and really liked. Are there any other episodes of that, or was that the only one? And are there any other videos out there that you can give us links for?
Yeah, well, Poor Boy was, that's a real bit of SL history, actually. That was intended to be the first of a series. That was an experiment. I think it was way back in 2007 I did that. And that's what I call part of my Blues Tronica, which is a mashup of blues and electronica and jam.
It's really
one-man jam blues. And that was telling a story, and that was an experiment in machinima that I filmed myself. I never actually did any more parts to the story. It was always intended to, but there are a number of other videos I made with some other machinima photographers in SL. One of them who's sadly passed on. She was the best machinima photographer in Second Life that I thought, and she filmed quite a few of our videos, especially some of the network jams that I mentioned before. There's some of those floating around with Hathead Rickenbacker in Canada. Osprey Therian was her name, so RIP to Osprey. She was, to me, she was one of the best photographers or best machinographer. I think that's correct. In SL, and that's a little testament to her. There's a couple of videos floating around on my playlist that she filmed that are really well filmed and really well edited. Bitstream Boogie Live at the Juke Joint, which is with Hathead, and a couple called Synesthesia and Music Immersion that I did with Moshang Zhao in Taiwan. And, they're a bit trippy, quite interesting to watch still, and they're a little bit of a history of SL live music scene. Yep. And I'll put them in the note
want you to share, put those all in the note card too. And I don't know if I may have forgotten something that you'd like to share with the audience. Is there anything else that you want your audience to know?
Well, I think, yeah, well, come and see me. There's still a few of us old live music players. As I say, the live music scene changed a lot after about 2009, 2010. There was a big influx of the karaoke scene really took off. And I have nothing specifically against that. Music is music, but it changed the nature of the live music scene quite a bit. But yeah, we're still floating around. There's SL version 2 is just around the corner. Project Sansar, I think it's called. Virtual reality is taking off. So we'll see. I'm always up for experimentation, and there's a lot of possibilities still happening. And I still think live music with people playing real instruments and jamming and having fun is still what I call the killer app of SL.
I agree.
It's a great
I want to
experience.
thank you once again for coming here from halfway across the world to do this interview with me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Your video will probably be out within the week. You'll get a link to it.
All right. Thank you.
This is Wyvern Blazewood with Komuso Tokugawa. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Take care.
I be your dog. For I be your dog. For I be your dog now, baby. Walk alone. Turn your lamp down low. Turn your lamp down low. Turn your lamp down low now, baby. I beg you all night long. Brought me way downhill. Brought me way downhill. Brought me way downhill now, baby. Down a rolling fall. Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go down New Orleans. Baby, I love you so. Beg you all night long. I beg you all night long. For I be your dog now, baby. Baby, please don't go.